And we'll get to the sources presently. But before I begin that, let me ask you if you have any questions of a halachic nature that you wish to begin with.
I do. I'm curious if I'm at the end of my Shemona Esrei, and let's say I've already said the last blessing, and then just before you the Ratzon, or I'm at that point, but they're about to say Kaddish. Do I skip? Do I rush through it? Is it and then yeah, at what point, how do I prioritize the Kaddish versus the end of the Shemona Esrei? Especially when I don't think I'm
If
going to
you're
get an opportunity again.
if you're in a point in the davening such as you describe, you've not yet finished, and you're not yet ready to take three steps back. If you're not yet ready to take three steps back, when then you're still in the presence of the Shekhinah, and therefore you should not interrupt uh, your presence of the Shekhinah to speak. On the other hand, it's entirely correct to be silent and listen to Kaddish, and you can fulfill Kaddish by listening Shomea Ka'ona, and that's what you should do. This is true. This is true even in the middle of Shmona Esrei. You could be the Chazar Sashatz comes to Kedusha, or someone saying Kaddish or whatever it is. You can remain silent for a few moments, listen. You do not respond Amen because you're in the middle of your prayer, but that would be a good way to go.
And that's as if I'd said Kaddish for my relatives.
Correct. Of course, there was a big change back in the 30 Years' War in Europe in the late 17th, early 18th century. There's a big change in European practice. Previously, not everyone said Kaddish. Exactly one person said Kaddish, and there was a rotation. And depending upon the number of people who were in mourning, there might not have been enough slots for all the people who wanted to say Kaddish to have an opportunity, because only one person said Kaddish at Shacharis, only one person at Mincha, only one person in Ma'ariv, and the others had to listen and say Amen. Well, if you could speak, then you could say Yehei Shmei Rabbah also. There were so many orphans during the 30 Years' War that there was no hope of having enough slots for people to say Kaddish who were in mourning, and therefore the minhag began not so long ago, 2 centuries ago. The minhag began of all of the Avelim saying Kaddish together. But that's a new practice. Of course you can be Yotze. Of course you can fulfill your obligation by listening and saying Amen. Oh well, if
Even
you
if
can speak, you say Amen. If you can't speak, you just listen.
even if they didn't have kavana to be yotze for me, it's embedded in the practice, it sounds.
Yeah, well, they should have kavana. They should have kavana. They definitely should, and you can presume that they do. Uh, that's their job. That's what Kiddush Shem Shemayim Barabim is all about. Is for the other people. They should have kavana, and you can presume that they do.
So it would also be correct when I say Kaddish that I should have kavana that I'm going to yotze anybody who wants to be yotze on this Kaddish.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Because what you're engaged in at the moment. You're engaged in the enterprise of being Mekadesh Shem Shemayim Barabim. So it's the Rabbim that you are engaged with.
Thank you.
Okay, okay. Any other issues before we get started? Okay, we're talking about sleeping on Rosh Hashanah. I'm going to get the sources on the screen. Voila. Oh, I think I did it. Okay. Um, I'm beginning with the Bach, and the Bach is, normally I begin at the beginning, but here we're just plunging into the middle, And you'll understand in a few moments when we look at the Bach, you'll understand why we're plunging into the middle of this discussion. Bach, 17th century Vilna, 17th century Lithuania. His name was Rabbi Yossi. This is what he says. Katav b'sefer Ibn Sharib. Ibn Sharib. Now, when I first read this, I said to myself, who on earth was Ibn Sharib? I'd never heard the name. So, of course, after reading these four words, Katav b'sefer Ibn Sharib, I stopped and I had to, I did a little bit of research and find out who this person was. And he was a Talmud of the Rashba. And I actually found the Sefer. It's his drasha, Rosh Hashanah, and here you can even have the page number where he said this. And well, truth be told, he was not one of the principal authorities amongst the Rishonim in the Middle Ages. But he was a Rishon, he was a disciple of the Rashba, and he wrote this book, which was well received. Well, let's see what he says. The Bach, who was a great authority, embraced this approach of Ibn Sharib, so it does have importance. Ibn Sharib writes in the name of the Rambam that Tkiyat Shofar has a remez, a hint. What is the hint that hearing the shofar gives to us? Uru yesheinim mitar damaschem. Oh, sleepyheads, wake up. That's what shofar is saying to us. Oh, you sleepyheads, wake up and do tshuva. It's an alarm clock. It's to wake us up so we will do tshuva. That's what shofar is all about. Rambam said that. Now, what did Rambam mean when he said that? Now comes the interpretation of Ibn Sharib. Ritzono Lamar. Rambam meant as follows. This is the way Ibn Sharib understood the Rambam, and the Bach is embracing this approach. Ki hasha'a tzricha ha'ara. This is a time, Rosh Hashanah, is a time that demands wakefulness. Rosh Hashanah is a time that demands awareness. As it says in the pasuk, Im yitaka shofar ba'ir va'am lo yeharadu. If the shofar is heard in the town, people are going to tremble. They'll think the enemy is attacking. If you hear the shofar, you know that something big is going on. Imtia ra'a ba'ir v'Hashem lo asa. You hear the shofar blowing. That makes people nervous. That wakes people up, and that's what the shofar is for on Rosh Hashanah. Im yitkab shofar be'ir v'im lo yaharadu. If the shofar is blown in the town and people don't get excited, something is seriously wrong. Therefore, we now understand what it says in the Yerushalmi. Now, this is the Bach quoting Ibn Sharib, who is now going to quote the Talmud Yerushalmi. The verse, when I read that we're about to quote the Yerushalmi, the first thing I wanted to do was, of course, locate the exact passage in the Yerushalmi. What tractate is it? What page number? I want to be able to look up the commentaries on the Yerushalmi. So I write in parentheses, and I added these two words, Lesa Lifanenu. This Yerushalmi text, which is about to be quoted, is unknown in any edition of the Yerushalmi. This Yerushalmi text, which is about to be quoted, is unknown in any manuscript. Indeed, this passage of the Yerushalmi, which is about to be quoted, is unknown by anyone except Ibn Sharib, this one disciple of the Rashba. Well, it says in the Yerushalmi, according to this quotation of Ibn Shurib. It says, Asur Adam Lishan Rosh Hashanah. You're prohibited, everyone is prohibited from sleeping on Rosh Hashanah. You have to stay awake. Wakefulness, awareness is important on Rosh Hashanah, and you're not allowed to sleep. The exact words of the Yerushalmi are, according to him, Eich bar nash de damich bereish shata, a person who sleeps on Rosh Hashanah, Oskin Bedine, and they're in the heavens. This person is being judged. How can you sleep? Eich bar nash damich. How is it possible to sleep while you are being judged in the heavenly court? If you're on trial for some crime in the earthly court, you're not going to sleep for the trial. You're going to be very nervous about the outcome. Halachas kama v'kama, all the more so on Rosh Hashanah, anyone who's aware that he or she is being judged by the heavenly court, of course is not going to sleep. Oh, furthermore, yesh lamar kihu mora atzlus, sleeping just proves that you're lazy. As it says in the verse, in the story of Yonah, right? When Yonah was on the boat and on the ship, and there was a storm, and the ship was about to capsize. V'yakrav elav Rav Chovel, the captain of the ship, came to Yonah, V'yomarlo, and said to him, Malachan dam, why on earth are you asleep, Yonah? Come, wake up. Cry el Elokecha, cry out to God. Maybe God will save us and we won't be lost. In times of danger, you don't sleep. And Rosh Hashanah, the day we are being judged, is a day of danger for us. We want to have a good judgment. So, of course, you have to be nervous. And if you're nervous, you're not going to sleep. This is the end of the quotation of Ibn Shurib. Then the Bach adds, Maharam Rottenberg, one of the all-time great Ashkenaz Rishonim, Hayaragil Lishon, Kamobasha Yom Tov. He used to sleep on Rosh Hashanah, just like every other Yom Tov, took a nap in the afternoon. Yom Tov is a day of Simcha, and part of Simcha, part of enjoying yourself on Yom Tov is taking a nap in the afternoon, as if you're, assuming you're over the age of 10. Well, he did on Rosh Hashanah also. The Maharam Rottenberg slept. So we have here some tension, some disagreement between Ibn Shurib, based on this Yerushalmi, no sleeping on Rosh Hashanah. Two reasons. Number one, you should be nervous and therefore unable to sleep. Number two, you're just demonstrating your laziness if you sleep on Rosh Hashanah when you should be davening, you should be osek b'Torah, you should be doing mitzvahs and of paramount importance. You should be doing tshuva. Now, I just point out, one of my favorites is the Maritz Chayes. I really like the Maritz Chayes. He was in the 19th century, and so important that his notes, his commentaries are printed in the back of every standard edition of the Gemara. It's the only 19th century, only modern rabbi who's printed together with every edition of every standard edition of the Gemara. He just points out, Yesh harbe ma'amarim Yerushalmi shahayu nochach einei harishonim v'nevad meitanu. There are many passages in the Yerushalmi which are quoted by different Rishonim from the Middle Ages, and we don't find those passages in the Yerushalmi that we know. This is not the only example of a passage in the Yerushalmi that was apparently lost in the course of time. Then the Maritz Chaya says, "L'dugma atzig ezimhem." I'll give you a list of a few examples of Yerushalmi passages quoted by the great Rishonim, which simply do not appear in our editions of the Yerushalmi. Then it goes on and on and on and on with examples. So it's not so unusual that a Yerushalmi passage is quoted, and we don't have any other source for it aside from the quotation of a Rishon. But in this particular case, it's an obscure Rishon. The Bach was quite comfortable with it. I'm not as laid back. I'm not as mellow as the Bach. I would be happier if this passage in the Yerushalmi were quoted by someone of greater stature, the Rajba himself, for example. But that never happens. Now, what makes the story a little bit stranger and a little bit more difficult to accept, there is indeed another passage in the Yerushalmi which neither Ibn Shu'ib nor anyone else in the days of the Rishonim quoted. Here is a 100% well-established, legitimate passage in the Yerushalmi. Amar Rav Levi, V'hu yishpot tevel b'tzedek, yadin l'umim b'nei sharim. Rav Levi quotes a pasuk in Tehillim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges the whole world righteously, b'tzedek. Yadin l'umim, the nations of the world, aside from Bnei Yisrael, the other nations of the world, b'nei sharim, get judged straight, correctly. That's the verse. What does the verse mean? Rav Levi says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu dan et Yisrael b'yom b'sha'a shehem asukim b'mitzvahs. HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges Am Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges Bnei Yisrael when they are awake and engaged in the performance of mitzvahs. Oh, well, while the Jews are awake in whatever time zone they live in, and they are engaged in mitzvahs, davening, Torah, tshuva, the whole realm of mitzvahs, that's when they get judged. And of course, if you're at the moment engaged in mitzvahs, davening, Torah, the whole range of mitzvahs, then you're more likely to get a good judgment. The et ha'umot balayla. Other nations, aside from the Jews, get judged at night. After all, Rosh Hashanah is the day of judgment not only for us, but for the whole world. Well, a lot of people have to get judged, and the Jews get judged during daytime when they are engaged in mitzvahs, in whatever time zone they live. The non-Jews get judged at night while they are asleep. Beshash and betelin min mitzvahs. Non-Jews also have mitzvahs, but no one performs mitzvahs while you are asleep. Well, that's a statement which deserves a lot of study. People do not perform mitzvahs while they are asleep. This is not such a simple idea. Let me give you one specific example, and then you can think about it, and we can discuss this on another occasion. The performance, is there such a thing as performing a mitzvah while you are asleep? For example, here's just one example. Someone goes to sleep in a sukkah. Someone else comes along and picks up the sleeping person and takes him out of the sukkah. Is that somehow a nullification of the mitzvah? Was the person performing the mitzvah of sukkah while he was asleep? If so, picking him up and taking him out of the sukkah while sleeping is a bittul mitzvah aseh, is a cancellation of the mitzvah not good. If, on the other hand, there's no such thing as performance of a mitzvah while you're asleep, so why not? I mean, what's the problem? He was not. He's asleep. So the idea is is there such a thing as performance of a mitzvah while you are asleep? This deserves a separate discussion. But this passage in the Yerushalmi, that non-Jews are judged while they are asleep on Rosh Hashanah, and Jews are judged while they are awake on Rosh Hashanah. This is a clear passage in the Yerushalmi, which clearly implies that sleep is bad on Rosh Hashanah if you're Jewish. So although the passage upon which Ibn Sharib bases himself is a little bit shaky, here we do have a strong passage, a well-established passage in the Yerushalmi, not to sleep. Now, of course, just because one of the disciples of the Rashba said we shouldn't sleep, and just because I found a passage in the Yerushalmi which implies the same thing, and just because the Bach happened to like this approach, does not necessarily mean that this is the definitive halacha which is embraced by the poskim over the generations. Let's take a look at what it says in the Shulchan Aruch. The Ramah, these are the words of the Ramah, the Ashkenaz notator of the Shulchan Aruch. These are his words. Nohagim shelo lishon b'yom Rosh Hashanah. The minhag, the practice, the custom is not to sleep during the day of Rosh Hashanah. Now here we notice several things. First of all, we notice that this passage in the Yerushalmi is embraced not only by the Bach, but it's in the Shulchan Aruch. That's pretty authoritative, isn't it? But the Shulchan Aruch formulates it not as an obligation to remain awake. The Shulchan Aruch does not formulate it as a prohibition to sleep. All the Shulchan Aruch says is nohagim. The practice is not to sleep. That's what we are doing. There's a little bit of distance between this and an obligation. If someone asks, is it prohibited to sleep on Rosh Hashanah during the day? The answer is no. According to the minhag, should one stay awake? According to the Shulchan Aruch, the answer is yes. And the Ramah adds, minhag nachon hu. This minhag is correct. People refraining from sleep on Rosh Hashanah, this is correct and proper. This is advisable. This is commendable. This is praiseworthy, all of which is not exactly the same as saying obligatory, but it's nachon, it is correct. The Elia Rabbah, 18th century Eastern Europe, in his commentary, quotes this passage of the Ramah that we just looked at. And then Elia Rabbah points out, Halavush hishmital. The Lavush omits this practice. Now, this is very significant. The Lavush is a sefer, which is a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch, but the Lavush is a sefer which was written by Rav Mordechai Yaffa, who was the leading disciple of the Ramah. Now, the Ramah said, just 3 lines earlier, the Ramah said, it's correct not to sleep on Rosh Hashanah. That's the correct practice. That's the correct minhag. The disciple of the Ramah, who wrote the Lavush, omits this point. Now, of course, as I've mentioned many times in the past, it's a little bit more difficult to focus on what is not in the Sefer. It's relatively easy to focus on what the author says and the implications of what the author says. It's a little bit more difficult to focus on what the author does not say and the implications of what the author does not say. Here, the Lush, who slavishly follows the opinions and practices of his teacher, the Ramah, in this case, extraordinarily omits this practice, implying merely, it therefore seems to me, the Elia Rabbah writes, Svirale Deshare, it must be that the Lavush, the disciple, disagreed with his teacher, the Ramah, in the Shulchan Aruch, and the Lavush thought it's Shari, permitted to sleep on Rosh Hashanah. Just like the Bach mentioned was the practice of the Maharam of Rottenburg, who used to take a nap on Rosh Hashanah afternoon. It must be that the Lavush disagreed with his teacher and held, like the Maharam of Rottenburg, there's no objection to taking a nap on Rosh Hashanah afternoon. Next time someone tells you that Talmidim are somehow obligated to follow the opinions of their teachers, well, here you have a counterexample, but beginning in the Mishnah, there are a ton of counterexamples of disciples who disagreed with their rabbis. There's an extraordinarily long list of examples. Magen Avram, if not the most important, one of the two most important commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch, Magen Avram quotes the Arizal. Magen Avram quotes the Arizal. So the Elia Rabbah is quoting the Magen Avram, who is quoting the Arizal. Why? I don't have to tell you how important the thinking of the Arizal is. I don't have to tell you how influential the Arizal was. Well, it's hard to point to a more influential figure in Jewish thought. The Arizal was of the opinion, mutar lishon achar chatzot. Once chatzot, midday, has passed. Midday is when the sun is exactly halfway between sunrise and sunset. When the sun is exactly directly overhead, that's midday. The Arizal said, it's okay on Rosh Hashanah to take a nap after midday, in the afternoon. Well, if the Arizal had no objection to taking naps in the afternoon, and the Maharam Rottenburg did, we have testimony to that, and the Lavush, the disciple of the Ramah, rejected his Rebbe's practice of staying awake. Oh, we have pretty good sources here now permitting taking a nap. Why? Why is it okay to sleep in the afternoon? The answer is, according to the Arizal, Kvar nit orer hamalach al yedei tfilot v'tkiyot. The shofar is a wake-up call. We established that earlier. The Rambam taught us that. The shofar is a call to wake up. Oh, you sleepyheads, wake up. And once the shofar and the tefillot, the davening of Rosh Hashanah, once the tekiyot, the shofar, and the davening have woken you up, now you do tshuva, and now you can go to sleep. Now you can take a nap. Lefize, Gama Yoshev Batel Kiyoshe Dami, it's not really the sleep which is a problem on Rosh Hashanah morning. The problem is not the sleep. The problem is that while you are asleep, you are not engaged in prayer. While you are asleep, you are not engaged in Torah. While you are asleep, you are not engaged in mitzvahs. That's the problem. And while you are being judged by the heavenly court, you want to be engaged in prayer, in Torah, in mitzvahs. It's not the sleep which is the problem. Even if you're Yoshev Bottle, even just sitting and wasting time is equally bad as sleeping. It's not the sleep, it's the failure to be engaged with prayer and Torah. That's the problem. And therefore, Hayoshev Bottle Kayoshen Dummy, sitting, wasting time, is as bad as sleeping, just in concept, no different because you're not davening, you're not learning Torah, you're not doing mitzvahs, you're not doing anything at all. And then the Magen Avraham adds an enigmatic phrase, which is so important. Here's the enigmatic phrase added by the Magen Avraham. Ayin, take a look. Simin Tafkuf Tzadi Zayin. Take a look at what the Shulchan Aruch says in Simin Tafkuf Tzadi Zayin. Midin Leilech Lanar, where he talks over there about going to the river. What on earth does this have to do with anything? Why does the Ramah say, after telling us that it's okay to sleep, he said, "Oh, look at what the Ramah said. Look at what the Shulchan Aruch says about going to the river." Now, so you go to Siman Tafkuf Tzadi Zayin and you take a look at what the Shulchan Aruch says about going to the river. It's what we call tashlich. On Rosh Hashanah afternoon, people go to tashlich. They go to the river and there's some prayers which they say. And if you have ever participated in tashlich, you know that going to the river on Rosh Hashanah afternoon is one of the greatest social events of the Jewish calendar. It's a time to meet your friends. They come from all different shuls, all intermingle, and you see your friends and neighbors from other synagogues. And well, yeah, it's good to say the prayers in Tashlich, but the whole procedure, beginning to end, has a lot of wasted time in it. There's a lot of downtime in Tashlich, and on Rosh Hashanah we don't want downtime. On Rosh Hashanah we don't want sitting around. We don't want doing nothing. Rosh Hashanah is the time when you should be davening, you should be learning Torah, you should be doing mitzvahs, you should be doing tshuva, and Rosh Hashanah is not the time for a social event. Now, here we have a, an insight. Here we have an insight into the thinking of the Ramah and the thinking of those Jews. What do they call those Jews? You know, the Ashkenazim. I don't know if you've met any of these Jews, but they're good Jews. They're okay. We can uh, we can get along well with them, the Ashkenazim. But one of the primary characteristics of those Ashkenaz fellows, those fellows include the females as well. I'm not up to date on terminology. The one of the characteristics of the Ashkenazim is their religious practice is largely based on minhagim, very different than the Sephardic authorities. The Sephardic authorities, Rabbi Yosef Karo, the Shulchan Aruch, they do have minhagim. They do have minhagim here and there, which are precious, but the almost everything in Sephardic practice is rooted in halacha. Unlike Ashkenazim, we have tons and tons of minhagim. For example, a minhag tashlich, the minhag to go to the river and recite some prayers there on Rosh Hashanah. That's a minhag of the Ashkenazim. Sfaradim never heard of this. There's no halachic basis to this at all. And if one collects together all of the minhagim of the Ramah in the Shulchan Aruch, and indeed the Ramah in the Shulchan Aruch consists, well, 70, 80% minhagim. That's largely what the Ramah is all about in the Shulchan Aruch. The minhagim of the Ramah, the minhagim of the Ashkenazim, as given to us in the Shulchan Aruch, are largely leniencies, leniencies of monumental proportions. There's strong reason to avoid such and such a minhag. There's strong reason to avoid the minhag of going to the river. And after all, it's not a lot better than sleeping because there's a lot of downtime, a lot of wasted time in going to the river. Good reason not to follow that minhag. Nonetheless, no hagim. Nonetheless, it is the practice of the people. Nonetheless, the people are doing it. The yesh amal l'smoch. There is what to rely upon to justify it, and therefore we will allow the people, we will allow the Ashkenazim to continue with their minhag. We will allow them to continue with their practice, even though it's a great, humongous leniency. This example of the in the Magen Avram is just one of a huge number of examples. Okay, the Eliyah Rabbah quotes the Magen Avram, who quotes the Arizal, who says it's okay to sleep on Rosh Hashanah because it's your angel in the heavens. It's your defense attorney. It's your angel who is representing you before the divine court, before the heavenly court, who has to be awake. And as long as you as long as you woke up your angel before Chatzot Hayom, before midday, all is well. And in the afternoon, you can sleep and take a nap, during which you will not be engaged in Torah and mitzvahs. This is what the Magen Avram taught us. Let us now look at the text of the Magen Avram, and then we'll look at the text of the Arizal. When the Shulchan Aruch says that the minhag is not to sleep, the words of the Magen Avram are, Ha'arizal Amar said, She'achar chatzot mutar lishon, after midday it's okay to sleep, Shekvar nit orer hamalach al yedei tefilot v'tkiyot. Since your defense attorney in the heavenly court, your angel has already been woken up, it's okay to sleep. Now let's take a look at the actual words of the Arizal. For better or worse, we do not have any of the original texts of the Arizal. All of the writings of the Arizal which we have were not actually written by the Arizal. All of the writings of the Arizal were written by his Talmidim. There's no reason to doubt the accuracy and authenticity of the writings, but when people say Kitvei HaArizal, when people say the writings of the Arizal, strictly speaking, what they mean is the notes of the disciples. Well, here is the original source. Be'inyan Hashena, and which disciple was it that wrote this particular sefer? Reb Chaim Vital. Reb Chaim Vital wrote Be'inyan Shena, regarding sleep on Rosh Hashanah. Nirel ani daiti, it seems, in my humble opinion, Sheshamati Memori Zal, I heard from my teacher, the Arizal. This is Reb Chaim Vital saying, I heard from my teacher, the Arizal, Hata'am lefi she'ad tkiyot yashen. We are sleepy. We are sleepy and drowsy until Rosh Hashanah, until shofar wakes us up. Once we hear the shofar, we are woken up. Rambam, Rabbeinu Yaakov, Balaturim. This is what all the Rishonim say. Tikiyot shofar lamar, blowing the shofar is like Uru yeshein mitar demaschem. Oh, sleepyheads, wake up. Ukvar be'arnu, and Reb Chaim Vital further quotes the Arizal, we already understand ki ad yom sheni nikra adayin yashen. The true waking up of the neshama, the true waking up, the complete, it takes a long time to wake up. Well, everyone knows in the morning, well, not everyone. Waking up in the morning, if people like me, it takes a while. It takes a while to wake up. Well, that's just physically waking up in the morning. Spiritually waking up takes the 2 days. That's why Rosh Hashanah is 2 days. Uh, the, 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 the spiritual stimulation of the first day by itself is not enough to wake you up and make you aware and present of the spiritual matters at hand. Kavanatenu lo, and the whole purpose of the prayers, the whole purpose of the shofar is to make you spiritually aware. Lachein, therefore, ra'ui shelo lishon b'Rosh Hashanah. That's why we don't sleep on Rosh Hashanah. Ach lo ani dati, but in my humble opinion, nira gamken sheshamati memori, I also heard the Arizal say, Ein ze ela ad chatzi hayom. It's the whole problem of sleeping is in the first half of the day, midday and afterwards, it's okay. Ki acher kach kvandet orer al yedei musaf tkiyas. Once the tkiyas, once the blowing of the shofar has passed, blowing of the shofar is the main way of waking up. And well, the shofar has done its job, and therefore afterwards it's okay to sleep. It's not actually midday, which is important, the sun exactly overhead. You don't have to get one of these computer-generated calendars and calculate exactly when midday is and then take a nap. It's enough that you have completed the prayers of the morning, Shachris and Musaf. It's enough that you've completed and fulfilled the mitzvah of shofar. Ani ra'iti, Reb Chaim Vital says, I have seen, I saw myself that the Arizal took a nap in the afternoon on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so according to the Arizal, the great mystic of Tzfat, in a position quoted and embraced by the Magen Avram, in turn quoted and embraced by the Elia Rabbah, and so forth and so on, the waking up is accomplished by the davening and the tkiyas, and therefore afterwards it's okay to sleep. The Machzis HaShekel, the principal commentary in the Shulchan Aruch on the Magen Avram, Machzis HaShekel is what we call in the business a super commentary. It is a commentary on a commentary. The Magen Avram is a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. The Machzis HaShekel is a commentary on the Magen Avram, and you will not be surprised to learn that commentaries have been written on the Machzis HaShekel as well. This just goes on forever. What they mean is, the Machzis HaShekel writes, Im Adam osek b'divrei Torah o tefillah, if you are engaged in a spiritual enterprise, Torah, davening, ma'orer l'malach, you are awakening your angel, you are awakening your defense attorney on high in the heavenly court, litbalel alav, and then your defense attorney, your malach, will defend you in the heavenly court. Masha enken kishiyashen, sleeping does not accomplish this. Imken kambieto er ubato eno maora malach. Similarly, if you are awake but not doing anything to give nourishment, if you are awake but not doing anything to stimulate, if you are awake but not doing anything to give any power to your malach, to your defense attorney, defending you before the heavenly court, if you're just wasting time, that's not going to be of any benefit to a defense attorney, to your malach in the heavenly court, and that's as bad as sleeping. Now, we've seen so far the tension between diverse opinions. Uh, According to the Bach and the reading of the simple reading of the Yerushalmi, one shouldn't sleep at all on Rosh Hashanah. Similarly, one should not do anything which is a waste of time on Rosh Hashanah. On the other hand, it's not we who have to be awake. It's rather we who have to give the energy to our Malach in the heavenly court in order to defend us. And once we've energized the Malach, then in the afternoon it's okay to take a nap. The tension between two very different approaches. Is it we who have to be energized, or is it the Malach in the heavenly court which has to be energized? Which opinion, which approach is the normative one? Well, Mishnah Brura is pretty good for determining the normative accepted position of the poskim. These are the words of the Mishnah Brura. Im rosho kaved alav. If your head is heavy, that means if you're tired, yishan ma'at, take a little nap. Im efshar lo below zeh. If you can't, if you can't make it without a little nap, sleep a little bit on Rosh Hashanah. Because if you need a little bit of sleep, bivadai nuchal l'smoch al Maharam Rottenberg. If you need a little sleep, of course, the Maharam Rottenberg, the greatest of the Ashkenaz Rishonim, it can be relied upon, and we know he took a nap in the afternoon. It's okay if you need it. Someone who asks advice, good advice would be, don't sleep at all on Rosh Hashanah. That would be good advice. Oh, someone says, but I cannot function well if I don't take a little nap. My afternoon prayers will not be, I will not function well for the prayers. Well, b'shas hatchak, if you need a little nap, Mishnah Berurah says, go for it. Of course, you can rely on the Maharam Rottenberg and all the lenient opinions. Okay, now up till this point, we've been speaking about the call of the shofar to wake you up. But there is a whole different Hasidic approach to this issue. The Avodas Yisrael, written by the Maggid of Koznitz. He was one of the early Hasidic masters, one of the great Hasidic masters. He had a totally different understanding of the role of sleep and the importance of sleep on Rosh Hashanah, the Day of Judgment. Let's see what the Maggid of Koznitz had to say about this. These are his words. He quotes the Yerushalmi. Man denayim b'Rosh Hashanah, maz le'nayim. Someone who sleeps on Rosh Hashanah, if you sleep on Rosh Hashanah, your mazal will sleep. You'll have bad mazal if you sleep. That's what the Yerushalmi said. Arizal, and the Arizal explained this. The Arizal said all this applies until you have finished Musaf and the belong of the shofar. Why? And here comes a whole new understanding. As nit orer hamalach, like the Magen Avraham taught us, your defense attorney was woken up by your spirituality, and now your malach, your defense attorney, will do its job, and you can take a nap. We have to understand how this works. Why has no one spoken about sleeping on Rosh Hashanah night? Everyone sleeps on Rosh Hashanah night. No one ever thought that anyone ever meant you have to stay awake for 48 hours on Rosh Hashanah. Why does everyone just take it for granted that, of course, this whole problem of sleeping is only a nap during the day? But nighttime sleep, of course, is okay. Why is this something which has not been discussed and analyzed? Why have they not explained to us the difference between daytime sleep and nighttime sleep? What's the difference between daytime and nighttime? My shno, what's the difference beyond? If the Yerushalmi says don't sleep, shouldn't that mean for 48 hours, the whole of Rosh Hashanah? Asa adacha musaf, and why should sleep be okay in the afternoon after musaf? Well, it should be Yom Kodosh Mebo. The kedusha of Rosh Hashanah is from beginning to end. The kedusha of Rosh Hashanah is the same from the moment Rosh Hashanah begins through the night, through the day for 48 hours. Why, oh, why is it okay to sleep at night? Nearly, it seems to me, the answer is Kibalayla, mutar. Why is it okay to sleep at night? Why is there no spiritual objection to sleeping at night on the day of judgment? The day of judgment is 48 hours in length. Ki laila husod malchut kanoda. Laila, nighttime, represents malchut, God's dominion over the world. Now, this is something which was so obvious and so simple and so observable back in those days, but we, modern folk, are largely unaware of it. Back in the good old days, when all was right with the world, we had no artificial street illumination. Back in the good old days, when all was right with the world, nighttime was dark. Back in the good old days, at nighttime, everyone saw the glory of creation, just looking up into the stars, the magnificence of the sky was palpable to nowadays. Most of us go through our whole lives rarely seeing anything of the sky. Surely, if you're a city slicker like me, occasionally you go out camping somewhere distant from artificial illumination, and then you are amazed at what you see in the firmament. But back in those days, of course, everyone perceived it every night. Ein basod bechinas sheina b'Rosh Hashanah. Nighttime is the time where everyone is aware of the dominion of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, because nighttime is the time when everyone sees the magnificence of the celestial bodies. Adrabah, at nighttime, the power of a Kodesh Baruch Hu is revealed with great strength to anyone who just lifts his or her eyes to the heavens. Of course, the Malchut, God, God's dominion over the world is, of course, apparent to everyone at night. And therefore, at night, when inevitably you are going to be aware of God's control over the universe, it's okay to sleep. Aval b'yom, but during the day, during the day, when you don't have that inspiration of seeing the stars, of seeing the firmament, That is during daylight when we cannot see the stars. That's when it's important to be careful on Rosh Hashanah. Kol kategoria shama shiruria b'tzva marom rotzim lastir kedushas hayotzer. During the daytime when it's bright outside and we cannot see the stars, so the power of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the universe is hidden. You cannot see it so simply. Lo yitnaheg al pi avodaseinu. Lo yikare Elokeinu malkeinu. During the daytime, it's critically important to be engaged in Torah. During the daytime, it's critical to be engaged in spirituality so that you will be aware and cognizant of God's authority. That's why we have the shofar. That's why we have special tefillot on Rosh Hashanah, because that is the day of tshuva, that is the day of judgment, and it's during the daytime that we must be cognizant and aware of God's judging us, and we must do tshuva at that time. Okay, this is the Hasidic approach. We're going to pause with this at this time. I'm going to wish you a good week and a safe week, and look forward to seeing you all again next week, where we will continue speaking about halachic issues having to do with Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Until then, good week.
Shalom, shalom. Have a great week.
Shalom.
Shalom.